let's do a quick overview of what you're going to be learning today. So it's all about the mobile app, right? So this is your 101 on everything you need to know about mobile and how to navigate it and how to be a pro at using that. So we're going to be talking through projects, how to view your projects, the activity feed. We're going to be learning about data, how to access recent data as well as offline data. We're going to be taking a closer look at the viewer in the A360 mobile app, how you navigate through that, hide and show 3D parts, isolate parts, comments, properties, walk to, everything. We're going to be demoing markup as well, in a quick look at how that works. And finally, learning how to open files from email and Dropbox. So lots of good stuff lined up. And Bud, are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Today, as Nisha said, we're going to take a walk through or a quick look at how to navigate and use A360 Mobile. We're also going to talk a little bit about workflow and different ways you may want to be using mobile. You may already be using mobile this way. So let's go ahead and I have it open here. Let's launch the app. This is going to bring up A360. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, I'm going to slide over here and move some stuff around. We're going to go down the left side here to show off or explain to you what these different pieces are. By default, we start in projects. I'm going to click up one. That's going to show us activity. So this is all the activity of things you've been doing. So like when you're in a project or actually in this case, if you're in the hub on A360 Web, this is the stuff that shows up there. So mobile is an extension of A360 Web. So everything happens on your A360 team or personal account, and then it shows up here on mobile. And then projects where we just were. And then we're going to click down here on data, and we're going to go through more detail on this stuff in just a minute, so we're just going to do a quick walkthrough. Just like what you saw in the projects, you can see if you have images assigned, you can see the images, so I can scroll around and see these things. And one thing I want to point out is in the upper left corner we have A360 Drive, and that's a snapshot or a window into your A360 Drive account. So if you have an A360 Drive account, you can go open files from there as well. You can also search. I'm just going to type in 902. My favorite project because I'm working on a remodel. And as you can see, it brings up files on my Drive site. I've actually created these drawings using AutoCAD. I'm using the A360 desktop app to upload these to the Drive site, and then I'm viewing them on A360 Mobile. I can also take them over to A360 Web. So what's cool about this is my files are accessible from anywhere, anytime for me. Now we're going to click down here on the recent data. So this is all the recent data that I've been working on my iPad. Specific to the iPad, and then right below that you see the offline data. And here's the first tip for you. If you're using the iPad someplace where you don't have access or internet access, what you want to do is you want to go load up any files, like maybe this rim here. Load it up before you get where you're going. Maybe you're on a shop floor where the internet connection's spotty and you want to show the guy that's building these things some things about it, or maybe you're going to ask him some questions. So you take that, open it up, make sure it works. Then when you're offline and there's no internet connection, you'll be able to open these files. So anything that shows up in here should open up in the offline mode. And then below that, we have the megaphone. Let's click on that. This is a survey. This is very cool in that the mobile team looks closely at this. So it's a great place for you to send us feedback based on the survey of things you'd like to see in the future and how A360 works. We look at this closely to see what features we can add going forward and what you guys are thinking. Tells us a little bit about what industry you're in, that kind of stuff. So we get a better idea of who you are and how you use our product. So if you're new to A360, check this out. Take it for a spin. Let us know what you think.
Hey, Bud, this is Brett. What button is that again? What's that?
It's a new icon, and it looks almost like a life preserver, doesn't it?
There you go, life
right?
ring.
Nice. There we go. Can you see my mouse there?
Yep, there we go. Yep, and now I can see it.
There's a little lag I can see. So.
Yep, just a little bit. Cool.
Yeah, and then below the life preserver is the gear icon. So let's click on that, and that's going to bring up settings. There's a lot of stuff in here that's very cool. There's a couple tips in here. We showed you the recent data and the offline data. If your mobile device has a limitation on how many files you can have on it, you know you don't need these files on there all the time. Because what happens is you click on a file to view it, it downloads it local, and then you're viewing it that way. That allows you to look at it in the offline mode. But if you need to free up some space in your device, you can clear recent data and offline data. We also create a sample folder, so when you first start using A360 Mobile, You can use the sample folder to view files and check stuff out. You can see I've already disabled it. It's just a little toggle or a slide. So it's green, it's on, it's white, it's off. I've turned it off. And then next up we have Buzzsaw. I don't have any information in here, but if you have a Buzzsaw account, this will allow you a window into your Buzzsaw account. I know Brett's played with this quite a bit. We're going to go back. And then what's new? This is very cool. So you've downloaded the app, or maybe you've had the app for a while. You want to see what's new in A360.
And one tip there while you're moving on there, one tip I would tell people on the Buzzsaw link that I figured out when I was doing that quick little video tutorial. If you've already linked your Buzzsaw site and then you sign out, once you sign back in to your A360 app again, it'll disconnect the connection. So it'll maintain it as long as you don't sign out, but as soon as you sign out and sign back into the app, it'll actually break the connection. You'll have to re-log into your Buzzsaw site. Just a quick little tip so that people don't think it's always just the connection's always live all the time to your Buzzsaw site.
And then the other tip up here is at the upper left corner, you can see my profile picture. To the right of that are 3 lines. I'm going to click on that line. That expands everything to the right, and you see the side menu. So you see the icons and the names. And as I was toggling through each of these, you noticed in the center at the top of the screen, which is wrong mouse, is up here like offline data. That toggles each time you pick one of those. And there's a drop-down arrow here, too. I'm going to click on that. This shows all the different hubs that I belong to. So if I want to switch hubs, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click on my Hangout hub, and that's going to switch me over to the Hangout hub. It also, one thing I noticed today is it remembers what I was last on. I was on offline data last time when I accessed this earlier today when I was trying it out. But if I go to projects, you can see they're different than what you were seeing earlier. Same with the data when I click on that. And so if I click on my A360 drive, that's going to show different data as well. So it's the data that's associated with that account. And I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to switch back to my AutoCAD hub. That's the name of my hub.
Hey, while you're switching there, Bud, one of the things I think that's really cool about this too is that if folks look at the icons, I mean, there's complete, it's an intentional design where the icons and the layout of them are exactly the same as your web hub too, right? So that that way everything looks the same except for obviously maybe the life ring kind of a thing, but it's intentional so people can recognize, oh yeah, it looks just like my own web hub, so that's really cool.
And same thing with the images that are used for your project, right? So you can see. So one of the tips I like to give when we do the Getting Started Hangout is when you create an image for your project, make that image something that relates to what you're working on. So next we're going to go back to projects, and I'm going to slide to my Bud's sample files project. And I was saying earlier that the icon that you pick or the image that you pick is kind of important. In this case, I picked the Autodesk logo because it's easy to spot when I'm searching for something. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to come up in data. So this, or activity, sorry. So this shows all the activity on this project. So as if you were on the A360 website, this is the same activity you would see there. I'm going to click over on data, and I'm going to go to this really cool, and you guys probably didn't notice, but I'm wearing this shirt today with cars on it because I love this engine. I'm a bit of a gearhead, just to warn you. And this is the V8 engine step file, so .stp. I'm going to click on that. This opens up the viewer, and while this is loading the drawing, and you can see it's loading up pretty quick, we're going to take a tour around the viewer. Ooh, I'm a poet and didn't know it. In the upper left corner, we have the X that takes you back out. So if you don't want to be in that file, you would do that, and that will take you right back out. You can load it back up. It shows you the file name, and then along the side, we've got 4 icons there. And we're going to click on the first one, and that's Sheets. And all we see right here are there's one scene, the 3D scene, because there's no sheet sets in this. If you had it, and we're going to look at another model that has sheets in it as well. So that's what you're seeing there. I'm going to go next. I'm going to click on Parts, and this shows you all the parts inside the drawing. We'll get into more detail of these in a minute when we start demoing some more. And then Comments. So click on this. You can see there's comments up here already. And I'm going to go back, and then we also have the I, and the I is for properties. Notice nothing shows up. That's your next tip. You got to click on something, click on a part, and then they start showing up. And part of why I waited to show this is you also see have a menu that comes up starting from left to right. We have the I for properties, and then we have the comment, and then we have a new icon which looks like a light bulb with a flash to it. That's for turning on and off parts and layers depending on the type of drawing you're in, and then we have isolate. We're going to start there. First let's minimize that. Let's click again. And I'm going to click on isolate to show this off. So what we've done is we've taken this cover on the engine and we've isolated it. Everything else is dimmed, so you can see all the cool parts. You can see the pistons. You can kind of see this dual overhead cam. That stuff's kind of showing up in here, but nothing else. So I'm going to come back in here. Notice the icon has now changed. It shows 3 blocks highlighted where before it only showed 1. I'm going to click on that. That turns everything back on. Let's go back in here again. Click on this. Now I'm going to show you the new isolate or turn on off 3D parts. I'm going to click on that. So now what we've done, I'm going to zoom up a little bit. We've turned off the cover, and what's cool about that is now you can see everything that's buried underneath it. And I'm just going to click here, and I'm going to click on this, and notice what it did is it opened up the part and shows that part. So it's hard for you to see this in the mobile, but what I can do is I can click on that with my finger and turn that part off. And I can start clicking through these things and isolating. So now what you're doing, you're seeing all the stuff I was just describing there a minute ago. So I can see the dual overhead cams, I can see the injectors, I can see all that stuff in great detail. It's very cool, especially if you're out in the field and you're trying to show someone something. Maybe you're in manufacturing and you're having some parts built and you need to show them the parts and drill down underneath the things you wouldn't normally see, and maybe 2D data isn't good enough for that. At the bottom of the screen, we have Show All on the lower left corner, and I'll just drag my mouse over there so you can kind of see that. And then I'm going to click on that. That's going to turn everything back on. And the other thing I wanted to point out is I went through each of those menu items, but you can open any one of these, and you can slide through. So I'm just dragging from each one of these comments and properties. Again, you have to select something for the properties to work. Let's minimize that. And that shows you everything. I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's a really good point there, because that's one of the things I didn't really realize it until I started fiddling around with it a while ago. In the spirit of redundancy, right? Each of the buttons will open up the same panel, but as you showed, you can slide through that panel on each one of them, whether it's properties or comments or sheets or anything, which is really a cool tip as well.
So the other thing I would show out here, which is show off here a little bit or tell you about, is kind of a real-world experience. One of the sites that I work with fairly often, they build these huge facades. And when I was showing them this feature, the first question they asked me is, okay, I've turned stuff off. How do I turn just that back on? Because as you noticed, when here, one more quick tip. I just lost my drawing on the screen. Rather than trying to find it, I'm just going to click on this Home button right down here, and that's going to bring my drawing back into the home view. Much easier, right, Brett?
Yes, definitely.
So what we figured out, which is kind of cool, while we were playing with it, is if I turn something off and I turn them, a couple times, if I didn't mean to turn that part off, I can turn it back on over here to the left. So it's kind of like turning on and off layers in a drawing, where when you're in the UI itself, it's more difficult to do that because you only have the option to keep turning things off or turn everything back on. So for example, if I just come through and turn a few things off, of course everything's underneath so you couldn't see it. Then if I click back here in the drawing, now the only option I have straight up is it's that same icon that shows the 3 blocks all highlighted. So when I click that turns everything on. If I click it again, you'll see I'm going to isolate that, and then one more time. Now the only option I have from this part of the UI is to turn everything back on. So that's another really nice tip for you. And with that, I'm going to slide down to comments. So what's really cool, down at the bottom you see we have add comments or hide all. So if you don't want to see these dots on the screen while you're showing off the drawing, you can open that up and go hide all, and then you can go show all. I can also start clicking on things. Let's click on 4 here. I did this earlier. This flips the drawing over because when I made the comment, I had the drawing flipped over. And it's the oil pen. I might have a comment, can we get this in Chrome, something like that. So when you're creating comments in a 3D drawing, especially if you're sharing with people, manipulate the drawing to where you want it to be, and then add the comment. And then when they click on the comment, when they're looking at it and reviewing it, that's going to put it back to that view so it's easier for them to see. It makes a lot more sense. Where if you just had static comments with a line going to it, it's not quite as nice as this. And with that, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to hit the home icon, and we're going to continue the UI tour. So in the next to the home icon, we have another plus. That's the comment. Again, that's more redundancy, so it's just a way to see it. So if I use this, I'm picking a point to where I want the comment to be, or I can go skip and then it's just a general comment. So maybe I'm just posting a comment saying, hey, this is really cool, I like it, let's build it. Or I'm not necessarily wanting to point directly at the drawing. Now in the upper right-hand corner, we have 3 more icons. We have the gear icon again, and as we learned earlier, that's settings. So now we see right at the top we have orbit and free and turntable. And free is just allowing you to rotate it like a globe, whereas turntable is exactly that. It's like a turntable. And we have enable walkthrough. This is not a 3D drawing, but I'm going to turn, it is a 3D drawing. It's not something you would do a walkthrough, but I'm going to turn this on anyway. And that's going to turn on this joystick pad down here, and we'll do more about that later. But even in this drawing, you can use this a little bit to pan and move the drawing just slightly a little bit. You have enabled gravity and collision, so if you don't want to walk through walls, you can leave that off, or if you want to walk through walls, you can enable it. I'm going to go to settings. We're going to do a 3D house a little bit later, and I'll explain more of the walkthrough stuff. So this, again, is another easy navigation. It shows the stuff we just went through. I can slide through these. Markup and share, we're going to do that in a couple minutes here. And then layers and parts we just did on the left side. So if you forget all this stuff that we just showed you in the video, it's not quite ready, you can find all this information inside A360 Mobile. Let's close that out. And I was saying, so for example, I can move this. So if any of you gamers out there, this is like the old gamer iPad app or pad app, PlayStation, stuff like that. So I can move it up or down, this kind of stuff. And then if I'm not happy where it is, I just hit that home view again. And then, now this is kind of a side note here. I was creating some videos a few weeks ago, and I was trying to figure out what Apple's official name is for this icon in the center in the upper right-hand corner. And almost everyone calls it a rectangle with an arrow at the top. I could not find anywhere what that is. So if you guys know, let me know. I'm dying to find out what the official name is for this icon. I'm going to click this. This brings up a whole bunch of stuff. So we've got share screenshot. Upper left corner, we can exit out. We shows you what your screenshot is and what it looks like. And then the lower left corner, we have save to project. So once you're done, you can save this to a project. I can send an email. I can pick another app, or I can save it to a library. Because it's an image, that means it's going to save it to my photo library. And in the middle, we have add markup. So I'm going to click on that real quick. This brings up the markup tool. And starting in the upper left corner, we can cancel. If I made a mistake, this is the wrong file, I could just cancel. I'm going to go back to markup because I didn't. And then in the lower left corner, we have a pencil icon. I'm going to click on that, and that brings up a list of menus. So starting at the top, we have the pencil icon, so I can freeform mark things up if I want. And then next to that, we have an arrow. So if I want to point to this, I can do that. And we have measure. Quick thing about measure, it's just going to allow me to create where the information is going to go. It doesn't actually measure. We're working on that. We're trying to get that in the future. But if you're out there in the field and you're working on something, you probably have your tape on you. Maybe you're measuring something because it's wrong in the drawing. You want to add it here. I'm going to put a question mark because maybe I want to go back to the drawing and see what that dimension is. I'm going to go down. I'm going to click here. Next, we have a rectangle tool. So I could draw a rectangle around this so I don't forget. Different ways to highlight things in your markup. We also have a rev cloud. You can see my rev cloud wasn't too great. I'm going to use this rev cloud around the exhaust collector. And then a note. So I can come up here and I can add a note. So wherever you click is where you start typing. So I'm just going to say check this. And a tip for you, if you hit enter, it'll add a line. Otherwise, it'll just keep running it off the screen. And we've got that. So now we've gone through all the tools on the left. We also have an undo. So I can click that and you can redo. So I can put it back if you make a mistake. The undo and redo is going to only go back in this instance. You can't, once you put these things down on the screen and markup, you can't readjust them. Then you see we got this red color. We got an overload of red here. I was a graphics major, so you know I'm not so happy about seeing all this red stuff on the screen. So I'm going to click here, and we have more colors to choose from. So I could go green. I can come back over here, and I can make my own arrow. And I can also come in here. I can change the size. This is the largest. Maybe I want something smaller, and I want to use their arrow and point to this. And then I can also, I've got orange and red and yellow as well. So you've got multiple choices on your colors. So once you're happy with all your markup, you don't have to do any undo or redo. Let's click done. That's going to finish this off. And what it's done is it's taken a picture of this, like a screenshot. Now I can save this to a project. So I'm going to click here first, and this brings up a list of all the projects. So we know which project we were in. We got Bud Practice Sample Projects, Bud Sample File Projects. Let's click on that. And look, I've already pre-done this. I've created a markup folder, and this is what I suggest. If you're out in the field and you have internet access, and you know you're going to be doing markups or something like that, maybe you're kind of working more or less in real time with somebody in the office and you're sending them these updates. They're making the changes so you can reload the drawing and check it while you're there. Create a folder and share this stuff that way. So I'm going to click on markup. I'm going to go select.
Hey Bud, while you're there, Bud, just a quick question, not to interrupt you,
Sure.
but how did you create that folder? Did you create that right from the mobile app?
No, I created that folder online. You can't create from the mobile app at this time.
Gotcha.
So that's what I'm saying. You want to preload this stuff. And the other thing you may or may not have noticed is I'm going to go back there just for a second. Whoops, done. I clicked the wrong button, Brett. Let's click Save the Project. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to pick that same project. I also have an email and a Dropbox account or folder because I know I'm going to use email. Maybe Brett sends me a file. Maybe the guy working in the field, he's not in the office, but he's got an updated file and he emails it to me. Maybe he doesn't even have an account, so I can pick those things this way. So I'm going to go back at it. I'm going to cancel out. Next up, we have email. So if I want to email this, I can come in here and you can see it attaches that screenshot. Maybe I want to make sure the guy in the office, maybe he's not checking his 360 account as much, so I'm going to send him an email as well to make sure. So I'm going to put that in there and send him an email. Other app, I'm going to click on this. So if there's something else, maybe I want to post, maybe I'm a very social guy, I want to post it on Facebook, maybe I want to Twitter it, or maybe I just want to put it on my cloud. So you can pick different apps. I can also put it on Dropbox, so you can see right here. And I click them more, and that will give me other options. And the last but not least is Save to Library. So I'm going to click that, and that's going to save it to the Images folder. My iPad. Maybe I don't have access, and that's another good point while you're working offline. You can still do all this work, and then when you get back to where you have access, it's going to update all this. And so I have a DWF-X and a DWG right here. I'm going to click on the DWG, and that's going to bring up an option, and I can go through here, and I can pick what I want to open it with. So in this case, I'm going to open it with A360. I could also save it to Dropbox if I want, or any other thing that I've downloaded, any other app that I've downloaded on my iPad or my mobile device that I want to save files to. But I'm going to click on that, and that's going to launch A360 Mobile. A little different than you saw earlier. I can also switch hubs here. So if I don't want this in my default hub, which is AutoCAD, if I wanted to put this in the Hangout, I can come over here, and I can scroll down and pick Hangout. I'm going to go select. There's nothing in there. So now what it's going to do is going to upload this file. I can also say notify me when ready, and then it'll tell me. If I can go back and start doing things in here, once the file's ready to view, it's going to open it up and show me. While we're waiting for that to notify me, I'm going to point out a couple more things in the upper right-hand corner here. So we have the plus, and then to the right of that we have the lines of the dots. I'm going to click on that. That's going to change from a thumbnail to a list view with the icon. So you can switch back and forth. That's available in the recent data, offline data, and data. It's not available in the projects. And you can see that when you start clicking on these things, that will show you the difference. So let's go here. We're going to click on the plus. And so here's where the upload from Dropbox is. We can also take a photo. Maybe you're working at offsite somewhere, and you're let's interrupt myself. I'm just going to click on this, and that's going to load up the file that we just uploaded from my email. And it's going to open it up. This is Wilhelm. This is actually a sample file out of AutoCAD of the guy that I used to work with years ago at Autodesk, and this was his house that he built, and it ended up becoming one of the sample files. And you can zoom in. You can see all the detail. And this also is a good point when I mentioned we have the new 2D viewer. So before in the past when you would view some of these files, the line weights would be really heavy because we're now using the new what we call LMV, large model viewer in mobile for both 2D and 3D. I'm able to zoom in. You can see how crisp these lines are. Everything looks really good. It makes it really handy when you're out in the field. So this file, what had happened was I had it in an email attachment. I clicked on it. I said, save it to this project. I picked the project in the folder. It uploaded it to A360 Web. It put it in there. It did what we call translation to make it viewable, and then it notified me that the file was ready to view from the top. We're going to do Dropbox. We're going to click on that. This is going to open up my Dropbox account and A360 Mobile, email. And we'll do Wilhelm. We'll do the DWF-X this time, because that one doesn't exist. And we'll go down here. That's the other thing. If you know you have a duplicate file in there, rename it or put it in another folder when you're done. I could see my workflow would be I would make sure that folder was empty while I was out in the field, so I didn't have to deal with this there. And I'm going to go here, open up my data, and I'm going to go back to Dropbox and select. And this time it's going to do the same thing, and it's going to tell me that once the file is ready, it'll bring up a banner at the top. And then while that's happening, I want to show one more file and data, because I want to show, and you go to a Revit file, because I want to show the sheets that show up. So I'm going to click on this. This is the GWF-X, but it actually has all the same data that you would see in the Revit file. I'm going to open this up, and then I'm going to go click on the, and there's my thing. We'll go look at that in a minute. We'll say no this time. So I've got my notification. Here my file comes up, and I'm going to click on the sheets, and you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So I'm just going to pick one of these, and what that's going to do is that's going to load up the sheet set for that. So you can see, actually, while that's loading, you can see there's a lot of sheets in this drawing. So what's cool about that is I have total access to my 2D and my 3D data, and same thing, I can zoom in, start looking around. You know, there's a roof detail. There's all kinds of cool stuff in this, and I can switch to it anytime I want. Let's go back to the 3D view just for a minute. Let's enable walkthrough. And as you can see, it allows me to start walking forward in that direction. I'm just going to slide this drawing up a little bit. And I'm going to go right through the wall. If I turned on the gravity, I wouldn't be able to do this. So now I'm inside. What's nice about this, if you're just using your finger on a mobile device, it's a lot harder to do this. So I can kind of look around. And like I said, this takes practice. I have another file that I'm a little better at this with, but you can start working. I can go down the hall here, and I can turn around, pan back, go back the direction I was, or I can back up, and then back outside on the deck. So that's kind of how the walkthrough works. Before you show this off with someone else, play with it a little bit, because it's a little tricky. Once you get it down and you've got your orientation sets where you want to be, it's actually kind of nice because, well, as you can see here, the model is moving very smoothly now, versus when I start doing this, it's harder for me to make this do the same thing when I'm using my fingers with the gestures. As you can see, it's just not easy. So that's the walkthrough and the sheet set.
But I think the important thing that you said there, Bud, though, just to jump in there on there a second, that's
sure.
this is like the second version of walkthrough that we've seen. Yep. And to your point, it's getting better all the time. So a good use case for this is definitely, you know, to your clients, to your customers that, you know, maybe they, you know, obviously they don't have Revit or AutoCAD or whatever device or product that they need to view the file. Here's a great way to show them how to experience whether it's a building, or whatever it might be, to allow them to, you know, get right inside, even though it's a little tricky. But yeah, I think to your point, Bud, I think yeah, practice makes perfect, and it's definitely like you said before, it's getting better all the time. This is Rev 2 of this, and I know that they're continuing to enhance it, so I'm looking forward to seeing what it becomes.
All right, thanks everyone. We're going to turn this back over to Nisha.
Which brings us to the end of our 101 on A360 Mobile. So we're going to be talking about what's coming up in the future. It's definitely not Michael J. Fox on a hoverboard. It looks like that. But, you know, the product team has been working very, very hard on improving the sharing, viewing, and collaboration capabilities on mobile. And with that, you know, we've listened to your feedback that you've consistently been giving us on the forums and to the app. So what's coming up in the next few versions would be improvements on the measuring tools, as well as ability to enable custom views, sectioning on your models, and an improved markup experience. Right now, I believe, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a certain cap onto the size of the 3D file that you can open.
Yeah, I think the cap is about the upload more than the file. I've opened some pretty big files. I've opened a couple hundred megabyte files actually.
Is the question specifically, yeah, upload cap from mobile? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. 100. 100 megabytes.
Yeah, it's 100 meg currently, yeah.
100 meg, right. So the team is working on the ability to open larger 3D files and enabling a really smooth visualization of how that appears on the app. And finally, there's going to be an improvement on tracking tasks and the ability to get immediate notifications while working on the project so that everyone on the team, no matter where they are on the construction site or at a client site or in the office, will get notifications on changes in the project. So good stuff coming up, and with that, we're at the end of our Hangout. I have recorded today's session, and we will be making this available on YouTube. You'll look out for a link from me in your email in a couple of days from now. Once again, if you have any questions at all, in case we've missed answering anything, feel free to drop us a line at aska360@autodesk.com. Thank you for your time, and thanks, Bud and Brett. Great job, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nisha.